What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. I was not here yesterday. I am back today. Got a 10-game slate. I didn't see any of the games yesterday, but Cliffy has filled me in on the important details of that. So got 10 games here tonight. Nice GPPs for a Tuesday for a change. There's actually the $5 poke check has 10,000 the first, so that is nice. And joining me to help break it down, Slim Cliffy, what's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Calgary went out and put the wood to Buffalo. It was actually a 5-4 game with a couple empty netters. So, I mean, it is what it is. Nazem Kadri had a 3-point night. I think it was Sharon Govich had a 3-point night. It was him or Coronado, one or the other. They had a big game. Buffalo back on the board here tonight, and in an even worse spot for them. Should be interesting. John Gibson, 869 save percentage on the season. Had gone, I think, 7 or 8 straight games with a save percentage under 900, and then 39 save shutout in Vancouver. He had a pretty good game. I think it was Minnesota 2. Eriksson Ek had a 3-point night. Johansson had a goal. Boldy had a couple of assists with a shot block bonus, so they had a pretty good night. I think it was Calgary and Minnesota were at the top, but that was yesterday. Today's today. As you like to say, can't hit the nuts if you don't play. 10-game slate. A lot of the big boys are on the board. We've got Colorado. We've got Edmonton. We've got Dallas. We've got Tampa Bay. We've got our beloved Columbus Blue Jackets and Anaheim Ducks. Not a bad little 10-game slate ahead of us.
Yeah, so we should probably get right into it. Let's see, the first game of the night. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.2 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.3. Tampa obviously played last night. I think they lost, right?
Yeah, 2-0 to Toronto. Dennis Hildeby shutout.
The Hildebeest. So they're back on the board. You said that they kept their lines mostly intact until the end of the game where they were pushing for a goal, and those were Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov, Gensel, Point, Paul, Bjorkstrand, Finley, Gonçalves, Montreal going Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Kapanen, Texier. So it's nice to see that, Montreal 1 is back together here. They are so much better with Slavkovsky. Suzuki and Caulfield are so much better with Slavkovsky. 260 minutes together this season, 3.3 expected goals, 2.5 actual. They had a tough go shooting, but that's the way it goes sometimes. This is a pretty good matchup because either they're getting Jonas Johansson back-to-back, or they're going to get someone who couldn't beat Jonas Johansson out for a job in the preseason. So this is a pretty good matchup. That top line is fully correlated, 17,300, 14.9%. Top two, 16% projected ownership. It doesn't super, like, there isn't a matchup that really concerns me here. If they go out against Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov, like, yes, Hagel and Cirelli are very good defensively, but not so much with Kucherov. They just are really, really good defensively. They still give up a lot defensively here. So, I don't trust a Point Gensel Paul line to be anything worth a damn defensively. So I do really like Montreal 1 here. It's just a matter of the ownership, 16% on a 10-game slate. Now, it is kind of baked into the price, right? Because at times we've seen that line, even this season, push 20K. So 17,300 in this spot is pretty good here. It's just a question of if you want, we have Pittsburgh, who's a little bit cheaper. There's Dallas we'll talk about. There's our Blue Jackets. There's, some Ducks lines in that range. There's just a lot in that range. They are pretty chalky. I do really like them here tonight just based off the goalie matchup and possibly seeing that Kucherov line, which is very high event. So I do like Montreal 1 here. On the Tampa side, 20,900 for Kucherov, Hagel, Cirelli. Now, if they do see a bunch of that Suzuki line, that Suzuki line has been very good defensively this season. Just this line has been ridiculously good offensively. 106 minutes, 5.6 expected goals per 60, 4.5 actual. That's kind of insane when you're getting into a sample above 100 minutes. Obviously, you want to see that keep going the bigger the sample gets, but that is a pretty large sample to sustain those numbers. They are 20,900, and that's kind of where I'm running into the issue, because you have Colorado on this slate, you have Edmonton on this slate. The Tampa 1 does have the best top two in the night at 17.7%, but at 5-on-5, it honestly isn't the greatest matchup. Montreal has been taking more penalties. I guess technically they're still fully correlated, so I think they're completely fine play here. It's just, Edmonton's in an unreal spot. Colorado's in a very good spot. It's just, I don't know if I want to play a back-to-back on the road Tampa with 20 teams on the slate coming off a shutout in a matchup that is worse at 5-on-5 than it was a week ago when Zach Bolduc was there. So I think they're fine. I think I'm prioritizing other lines in that range. I don't love Tampa 2 either. Point Gensel Paul. They're 18K, and that's just it's a price that's the issue. Point has had a pretty tough season so far. They do get secondary matchups against the Canadiens, which is where you want to take advantage of them. But at that price, it's just, if you're making 20 to 150 and you get one or two, I think that's fine. But spending 18K for that line when you can save 700 and play a fully correlated Montreal 1 just doesn't make sense to me. So really, it's a Montreal 1 game for me. I'm fine with the Kucherov 1 off. I think Tampa 1 is in a good spot. It's just not as good as it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm out on Tampa 2, just because I'd rather pay the extra 2,900, go play Kucherov, Hagel, Sorelli. Just generally speaking, their top 2 stack is 5x of Tampa 2, and for $2,900, I think that's more than worth it. Tampa 1, as you mentioned, generating a ton of expected goals, 5.5 per 60, but they're also scoring. That's the thing, right? 4.1 goals per 60. And it's not a great matchup against Montreal 1, because that top line has generally been very, very good defensively this season. I even looked over the last 5 weeks. They're still at 2.2 expected goals against. But it's not like the Montreal goaltending's been very good. The Habs do take a fair share of penalties. Tampa's power play really hasn't been great, almost regardless of the iteration. I don't mind going right back to Tampa 1 here tonight. I feel 6.7% projected ownership. I wonder if it doesn't even come in lower than that, if more people flock to Edmonton instead. Anybody that got burned by Tampa last night, and there were a lot of us, might want to stay away from them. Even with the full lineup last night, Kucherov played 24.5 minutes. Anthony Sorelli played 21 minutes. Now, they were chasing the game, trying to get a goal to get tied. But, if that happens again tonight, it kind of tells you level of ice time they might get. It is not a great 5-on-5 matchup. Montreal defense is prone to some turnovers. Goaltending hasn't been great. I honestly don't mind Tampa, the Tampa top line here. You mentioned the other top lines, Colorado's $2,000 more. They have lower projected ownership, but I think I'd rather play Tampa than Carolina here tonight. I'd rather play Tampa than some sort of Dallas line. So I really don't mind Tampa Bay here, but it is Montreal that's drawing my attention because that top line, you mentioned how good they've been offensively. Even I looked over the last 5 weeks, still at 3.5 expected goals per 60. They're perfectly correlated on the power play. Now, Tampa's penalty kill has generally been good this year. If you look over the last 5 weeks, Tampa's PK, 4th fewest shots against per 60 in the league. So it is kind of a tough power play matchup for the Habs. Montreal's power play outside of a 2-week stretch there in late October or whatever has generally been pretty good this year. I think they're still top 5 by power play percentage on the season. 17,300. Like Caulfield and Slafkovsky rather have been playing like 19 minutes a game. Suzuki approaching 21 over the last 5 games. Cole Caulfield, 35 shots in his last 10. Like you said, shooting against either Jonas Johansson or an AHL goalie, it puts Montreal in a pretty good matchup goaltending wise as well. So like the fact that they're like $3,000 cheaper than Tampa 1, I think they're in a better 5-on-5 matchup than Tampa 1, they're going to be matched up against. And it's a worse power play matchup, but Montreal's had a better power play by a fair margin this year. So all else equal, for me, it's Montreal over Tampa 1, especially when you factor in the price. It's just whether you want to play them at, mid-teens ownership. I think it's fine on a slate this large. At 17,300, there are a pile of lines you can fit in with them. I wouldn't be too worried about being duped or anything like that. So for me, it goes Montreal 1, then Tampa 1. Montreal 2 is kind of interesting to me, if only because Tessier and Demidov have been good in a small sample together, at least been able to drive the play, which very few Demidov lines have been able to do this year. What worries me is that Texier hasn't been there long, and Montreal's last 3 games were Winnipeg, Toronto, St. Louis. It's not exactly a murderer's row. If you want 2-man like Kapanen, Demidov or something, I think that's fine. But for me, it's Montreal 1, Tampa 1. It's about all the top lines here tonight.
Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.1 total heading into Long Island. The Islanders have a 2.8 total. Vegas going Eichel, Barbashev, Bowman, Hurdle, Dorofeyev, Saad, Stone, Marner, Howden. Islanders going Heineman, Horvat, Shabanov, Lee, Barzal, Pajot. This is a pretty tough matchup for the Islanders, regardless of who's in net for Vegas. I think it's probably Carter Hart, who's been shaky to start his tenure.
They might be going to Schmid. I think Hart, I almost called him Shart. I think Hart hurt himself and is kind of like day-to-day, but not officially on our. Anyways, it's just something we'll see at warm-up.
Yeah. I don't really like these 5-on-5 lines. I guess, if anything, it would be Barzal, Lee, Pajot. But the problem is, like, all of these Vegas lines are good defensively. They don't take a lot of penalties. So I really do not want to prioritize the Islanders on this slate. They have, outside of Nashville, the lowest home total on the board. Vegas is a perennial cup contender. Islanders are having a nice season, but they're rebuilding. So, if you want to do a one-off Barzal, one-off Duclair because he's min-priced or some shit, Maxine Shabanov at 2,900. I'm not really full stacking anything, though. My interest is on the Vegas side, and it's still unfortunate that their power play is across 3 lines. But that Horvat, Shabanov, Heineman line has been pretty bad defensively. I don't mind just full stacking Eichel, Barbashev, Bowman at 15,400 at 3.1% projected, just straight up as a 5-on-5 stack there. They've been fine. They've been pretty good. That Islanders line has been atrocious. Now, if you want to turn it into more of a power play stack, I think that's fine. You can leave off one of those 2 guys and add in Stone or Marner or something like that. You could add Eichel into a Marner Stone stack to make it a full power play stack. You could go Hurdle, Dorofeyev, Stone, something like that. But, a power play stack I think is fine. But just based off the 5-on-5 matchup, I do really like Vegas 1 here.
Yeah. We'll have to watch Islanders warm-ups. I think they moved Shabanov off the line for I almost called him Thomas Holmstrom. That guy hasn't played in the NHL in 10 years. Simon Holmstrom. We mentioned it on a show, I think last week, that line with Shabanov had some horrific defensive numbers. So maybe they just want to get more sound defensively. We'll see at warmups. Either way, I don't have a ton of interest in the Horvat line. The Barzal line, I was looking at Barzal and Lee. They're up over 120 minutes without Kyle Palmieri. Remember, Palmieri injured for a while. 66 shot attempts, 3.4 expected goals per 60. That is pretty good offensive numbers. It's not really a good power play matchup for him. Vegas doesn't take a ton of penalties. I don't, I'm not running out to play the Islanders, but listen, this line's 12,000 and change. Again, we'll see who lines up on the top line. I think it's going to be JG Pajot lining up with the Islanders Barzal line. And, you add him in, they are 13,100. It's a bit expensive for a filler, but again, Barzal and Lee, very good at 5-on-5. Barzal, last 20 games, over 2.5 shots per game with 7 goals. And, they do get minutes. Like Barzal pretty consistently gets over 20 minutes. Even Anders Lee at times has been in the high teens of late. Now that Pajot is there, I wonder if they use him in a shutdown role. It would give them a good 5-on-5 matchup. The Eichel line hasn't been good defensively with Braden Bowman there, but I don't mind the Islanders Barzal line here. For me, it would probably be more 20 max or 150. I don't think I'll be going in that direction in single entry. This is a Vegas game. I'm interested in making some sort of power play stack. Off rip, I was thinking Eichel, Marner, Stone. They're an even 20K. The reason I bring that up, I mentioned it on the show yesterday. I was looking at penalty kill expected goals against data. I wrote about it on my newsletter this week. Again, self-promotion here. If you head to my Twitter account or Blue Sky account at Slim Cliffy, my newsletter's linked there, free to subscribe. I wrote about early season expected goals against on the penalty kill, and then what happens to the team's save percentage on the penalty kill from that point forward. Last year, teams with high expected goals against rates on the penalty kill in the first 2 months of the season, their save percentages largely just crashed over the final 2/3 of the season. The only exception was Winnipeg, and it's like, if you have Connor Hellebuck, you're welcome to be an exception. But everyone else, it was like Anaheim and Seattle and on. Their save percentages just crashed. I bring that up because this was going into last night's games. Here are the 4 goalies with the highest expected goals against rates on the penalty kill this season. Dennis Hildeby, poor guy, way out in front. Calvin Pickard second from Edmonton. Third and fourth are both from the Islanders, Riddick and Sorokin. The Islanders are really getting bailed out on the penalty kill by their goaltending. If they don't tidy that up, the goals are going to start flying in. And I mentioned that because that Vegas power play, 152 shot attempts per 60 in the 6 games since Mark Stone came back. That is preposterous offensive numbers. We know their 5-4 power play has been very good this year. I get that it's hard going up against Sorokin with how well Sorokin has been playing lately. That's the one thing that's kind of holding me back. Tampa's only, $900 more expensive, so you can go in that direction if you want. I kind of like a Marner, Stone, Eichel stack here. Marner and Stone have been really good together at 5-on-5, 3.3 expected goals per 60. Stone has 7 points in 6 games since coming back. So like an Eichel, Stone, Marner 3-man. If you want to do like Eichel, Barbashev, or Eichel, Dorofeyev, Hurdle instead, it's a little bit cheaper. I think that's okay. But I do kind of like a Vegas power play stack here. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup. It's a great power play matchup. Eventually, if the Islanders penalty kill doesn't improve a lot, the goals are going to start flying in, and it's just a matter of if, not when, or it's just a matter of when, not if. So I like a Vegas power play stack in this game.
San Jose Sharks with a 2.6 total. Heading into Philadelphia, the Flyers have a 3.3. Flyers going Tippett, Michkov, Couturier, Konechny, Zegras, Dvorak, Cates, Brink, Grabankin. Sharks going Celebrini, Smith, Graf, Eklund, Toffoli, Wenberg. That line is fully correlated. They took Will Smith off the top power play, and they still have Klingberg running that power play. The big news is here, there is a ton of ownership on the Flyers, specifically that Tippett, Michkov, Couturier line, which has been very good in a small sample. That being said, I'm not sure I want to play a line that a quarter of the field is going to have, especially a Flyers line at that ownership, especially on a 10-game slate. So, they're fine at 13K because they're priced as a filler, essentially. They have a 9.4% top 2 stack, but 23.9% projected ownership. That's just massive wild leverage. They're not fully correlated. I just can't do it. That's one of those lines. If they beat me, good for you. I'm not going to do it. For me, like if I'm going to play any Flyers line, it's going to be Dvorak, Zegras, Konechny. They have been very good in a small sample too. They're coming in at 7.7% projected. They are a little bit more expensive, but they are fully correlated. I guess that counts for something, considering how bad the Sharks' penalty kill is. So it would be Zegras, Dvorak, Konechny for me. I also think like a Kate's Brink two-man is fine here. I know that line with Gurbankin has been awful, but also awful is the depth matchups of the Sharks. So don't mind that. But if I'm going to play a Flyers line, it's going to be Konechny, Zegras, Dvorak. On the Sharks side, like I guess Wenberg, Toffoli, Eklund, because they're a filler at 12,300. They're fully correlated, but it's a bad power play spot. And I don't want to stack the Sharks without Macklin, Celebrini. It's not the best spot anyway. So I think it would be like a Celebrini one-off or bust. And really, I just don't like the Sharks here tonight.
Yeah. So, God, I'm not playing a Philly line on a 20-team slate that's coming in at 20-something% ownership. Like I honestly, you could say they're playing an AHL team, and I'm still not playing them. I'm just not playing a Philadelphia Flyers line that is that chalky. It's a pass. So the question is whether to play Zegras, Tippett, and Dvorak. I was looking at Zegras and Tippett. Zegras and Konechny, rather, in their time together this season. Getting close to 75 minutes, 50 shot attempts, 2.2 expected goals, 4 per 60. They're not generating anything. You know, you get Zegras and Konechny on the top power play, 14,300. They're kind of in no man's land because that's not a filler. Like if you're playing Tampa Bay or something, you're probably not playing a $14,300 Philadelphia Flyers line. I'm probably just out on the Flyers here because, like, I'm not playing an uber chalk Mitchkov line. And Zegras, Konechny, and Dvorak at 14,300. It's one of those price ranges that I just typically don't like to play. For me, it's like, you know, between 10 and 12K, maybe 12 and a half, and then, you know, 16 to 21. Like that, you know, 12,500 to 16K range for a stack is basically just a dead zone. Because they're typically top lines on low scoring teams, and I'd rather just go play a top line on a high scoring team, like in Montreal, for say. So I'm probably out on the Flyers. What worries me is that the Sharks, I just talked about how the Islanders are due for some regression. The Sharks are too, but it's Alex Nedeljkovic starting. He's been pretty bad on the penalty kill this season. Not like the Flyers have a great power play. For me, if I'm playing the Flyers, it's like if I'm playing a 3-2-1 lineup, I don't mind like one-offing Mitchkov or one-offing Zegras or something like that. Full stacking anything is probably just going to be a pass for me. On the San Jose side, it's that problem once again. You know, you have their top player on the top line by himself on the power play, and then the fully correlated second line. I guess it would be Eklund, Toffoli, Wenberg because at 12,300, perfectly correlated. You know, getting decent minutes. Toffoli low end 15 minutes, but the other two 19 to 20 minutes. You know, going to avoid the Dvorak matchup. So once you get into the second and third lines, especially with Tyson Forster out, you know, I think like there is some upside here, but it's not Sam Ersson starting. It's Dan Vladar. Philly doesn't really take a ton of penalties. San Jose power play, they're sticking with John Klingberg. I think they scored in the last game. It's like, congratulations. I think it's their third or fourth power play goal with him on the ice this season. It's like, awesome, guys. I'm just out on San Jose. I guess the only thing I really like in this game is maybe some one-off forwards from Philadelphia. The Flyers, for me, are just too chalky, and this San Jose lineup against Vladar is probably just a pass for me.
Anaheim Ducks with a 3.1 total. Heading into Pittsburgh, the Penguins have a 3.3. Evgeny Malkin to IR just as the GOAT, Justin Brazeau, came off. Pittsburgh going Crosby, Rust, Novak. I think it's what? Hayes, Mantha, Brazeau.
Yeah, and then the kid line.
Kindle, Koivu, and McRory at 8,900. And the Ducks are going Carlson, Terry, Kreider, Gauthier, McTavish, Seneca, Vetrano, Strome, Killorn. It's actually a pretty interesting game. It's pushing a 6.5 total. There is one really chalky line in this game, and it is Pittsburgh 1. There's 16,700. It's a good power play spot. It's a pretty good 5-on-5 spot, even if they go out against the Carlson line. The problem is that ownership is just too much for me. It's like 16,700 and 21%, or I can go play Carlson, Terry, Kreider for $200 more at 1.3% projected. Like, I know it's not a great power play matchup for the Ducks, but that line has been very good at 5-on-5. And the Crosby Rust line, no matter who they're with, at best plays pond hockey. So, I think Pittsburgh's fine here. It's just one of those things that's like, I don't really want to play chalk Flyers. I don't really want to play chalk Pittsburgh here. I know Novak's an upgrade from Kevin Hayes or Connor Dewar. It's viable. It's just way too much ownership for me. So on the Pittsburgh side, if you are power play stack in Colorado or Vegas or going to Tampa, I think Kindle, Koivu, and Rucker McGrory is the line that I would go to here. They have been very good in a very small sample, but they will be getting bottom 6 matchups of the Ducks, and that is good for them. So, you don't have the full stack here, but like Kindle's on the top power play, so I would definitely use him. McGrory's min price, Koivunen's 2,600, so pick one that you need and get your $6,000 2-man in with your really expensive stuff against the bottom 6 of the Ducks. That's probably where I would go on the Pittsburgh side. On the Ducks side, like, I'm fine with Carlson, Terry, Kreider here at 1.3% projected. You want to go to Gauthier, McTavish, Seneca, because it's not a great power play spot and they're $2,100 cheaper. I think that's perfectly fine as well. They are coming in at 7.7% projected, but, their offensive numbers are even better than the top line in 235 minutes, 4.1 expected goals for, 3.8 actual. So, where it's not a great power play matchup, I'd go to the cheaper, better line. They do have more ownership, but I think 7% is fine on a 10-gamer. If you really want the cheap or the low-owned line, I'd go to Carlson, Terry, Kreider.
Yeah, this is a good power play matchup for Pittsburgh. We don't have really much of a sample without Malkin on the top power play because he's been there for most of the season. So how much that change helps or hurts, I guess we're going to find out. But the Ducks have been taking a lot of penalties, 3.5 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. That is the 3rd highest rate in the league behind Boston and San Jose. If you look at the season as a whole, Anaheim is 4th. So they're actually getting worse in their discipline. And the Anaheim PK itself hasn't been great. The problem has largely been goaltending, but there's still no Lucas Dostal. At least we're not expecting him to play. So the problem's going to keep being goaltending. Here's the case I'll make for Pittsburgh 1. If you look at the 15 to 18K price range, like we talked about Montreal 1, I absolutely don't mind playing them. We'll get to Columbus here in a second. Other than that, you're looking at like the Vegas top line with Eichel by himself, and I said I'd rather play a power play stack. There's the New Jersey top line with Nason there, assuming that that's what the start is. There's that new Winnipeg line with Alex Iafallo. There's Anaheim. I'll get to them in a second. I'm like you. I also don't mind them. So there's the Ottawa second line without Tim Stützle. There's really not a lot there, right? So that's kind of the case that I'll make for Pittsburgh is maybe you want to play Montreal, a little bit more expensive. Top 2 stack is a little lower. Expected ownership is a little lower. They're perfectly fine. We'll get to Columbus Anaheim. But like other than that, like I'm not going to play Winnipeg over Pittsburgh. I'm not going to play New Jersey over Pittsburgh. I'm not going to play Vegas over Pittsburgh. Or the Vegas top line. I'm not going to play the San Jose top line over Pittsburgh. I'm not going to play Ottawa over Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? So they're not my favorite in that price range. They're probably top 3 or 4. So I certainly understand playing them, but I'm kind of like you. Like I see 20+% ownership on on a line that may not stay together. Remember, Novak is replacing Hayes because Hayes wasn't really working out there. So, and they're not perfectly correlated. They're obviously a good play here tonight. I just think at, probably approaching 25% ownership in some single entries. I would probably rather play to the Koivunen line. Like, listen, the other day in Dallas, like McGroarty only played 12 minutes, fine, but Koivunen played 14 and Kindle, because of the power play time, was up close to 18. Like, they get decent minutes. They're super cheap. Kindle's had a really good year. We're fans of McGroarty and Koivunen. So like you said, Kindle plus Koivunen or Kindle plus McGroarty or something like that, I think is a nice cheap 2-man going against the depth from the Ducks. That's where my interest is on the Pittsburgh side. On the Anaheim side, for me, it's the top line. I understand wanting to play the second line. And here's something I'll mention about the second line, which is absolutely nuts that I did not realize until I looked at some of the tracking data. I was looking at the tracking data from all 3 zones. Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, and Beckett Seneca are all between 63% and 73% carrying the puck into the offensive zone on their zone entries. All between 63 and 73%. The Anaheim average is like 55 and the league average is like 51. Like, these guys, there's a reason why they're creating so much offense, is because they almost always have the puck when they enter the offensive zone. So I get that. And I'm not worried about any of the matchups from the Pittsburgh side. With the new Anaheim power play combinations, they're perfectly correlated on the second unit. So there are reasons to play that Anaheim line. I really do like the top line here at 16,900. They've all been basically playing like 19 to 20 minutes over the last 5 games. Kreider like 18 and a half to 19 minutes, but certainly Carlson and Terry approaching 20. Kreider, 24 shots in his last 10 games. We know how good it is on the power play. I like Anaheim 1 best in this game when you factor in 1.3% ownership. I think Anaheim 2 is perfectly playable here. I would rather play them than like a super chalky Philadelphia line or something like that. So I think it's the Anaheim side that interests me more. It goes Anaheim 1, Anaheim 2, but obviously Pittsburgh, they are one of the top plays on the night for a reason. It's just a matter if you want to choke away that 25% ownership. I just think it's too high.
New Jersey Devils, they 2.6 total. Heading into Ottawa, the Sens have a 2.9. Sens jumbled up their lines here. They're going Dylan Cousins with Batherson and Brady Tkachuk. Tim Stützle with Zetterlund and Nick Cousins. Cool. Then Grieg, Amadio, Giroux. The Devils haven't practiced in 2 days, right? And you were saying before the show that in their last game, they basically reunited Hischier, Meyer, Bratt for most of the game. So it's a fair assumption that they're going to be back together. We just don't know. They had an optional this morning. Not that I'm running out to play the Devils here tonight. Ottawa is a very good defensive team. Where you can beat them is on the power play. Their penalty kill is really bad. And Hischier, Meyer, Bratt are fully correlated anyway. So even if they aren't together and you play them, you get them all on the power play. It is expensive, but, that would be MME type deal for me. I think doing like a one-off Dawson Mercer is fine as well, even though, we have feelings about Dawson Mercer. He's been pretty well. He's played pretty well recently, so I don't mind that, but I'm not really running out to play the Devils here tonight. My interest is on the Sens side, and it would be that Tkachuk, Batherson, Cousins line at $17K. They're going to be fully correlated. Jake has them in the top stacks with a 6.1% top 2 stack, 5.1% projected ownership. It's interesting that they're leaving Stützle out on an island here to dry out, but he hasn't been shooting the puck at all. So I think they wanted to get Brady Tkachuk with Dylan Cousins. Drake Batherson is probably their best winger after Brady Tkachuk. So, that line's fully correlated. I don't have any matchup concerns on the Devils side. Jake Allen's been good this season, but this isn't the Devils team of a few years ago when they were just clamping down defensively, had a elite penalty kill. Neither of those things are true now. So for $17K and 5% projected ownership, I do really like Ottawa too.
Yeah. I'll be quick on New Jersey, not playing the Devils. Listen, this is a really, really bad 5-on-5 matchup. The Ottawa this season, the lowest expected goals against per 60, third lowest shot attempts against per 60 at 5-on-5. It's just a matter of Linus Ullmark not imploding, which he has done a number of times this year, but you can't always bank on a goalie being terrible unless he's named Jonas Johansson. He actually played well last night. I shouldn't slander him too much.
Jordan Binnington.
There you go. So it's a pretty bad 5-on-5 matchup. Ottawa, their penalty kill is not great, but they also didn't take a ton of penalties. And also, New Jersey's power play is generating 20% fewer shots since Jack Hughes got hurt. I don't think that would surprise anybody. They've still been okay, but certainly not anything approaching good. So I'm out on New Jersey. Question is what to do with Ottawa, because as you mentioned, that line at $17K being perfectly correlated. And I'm going to assume they're going to get secondary matchups, that they're putting Stützle with Zetterlund and Cousins because they're going to use them in a shutdown role. And they get Tkachuk and Batherson and Cousins away from any top matchups. I was looking at Tkachuk over the last couple of years. Playing without Tim Stützle, 74 shot attempts, 4 expected goals per 60. They're all getting high teens in ice time. They're very playable at $17K here. The one thing that is kind of holding me back, it's not that the New Jersey has a good penalty kill. It's actually not been very good. They're only taking 2.1 penalties per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the lowest rate in the league. Sens haven't really been drawing a ton of power plays. They might only get 1 or 2 cracks at it here tonight. For $17K, I think they're my favorite line in this game. They're the only line I really have interest in. If you don't want to play a chalky Pittsburgh or a chalky Montreal or something like that, I think this is one of the areas where you can go. But again, if I want to play a low on line at around $17K, Anaheim's right there. We're about to get to Columbus. I think there are other spots. For me, this game's probably largely just a pass other than some one-offs. But if I do play anything, it is Tkachuk, Batherson, Cousins.
Columbus Blue Jackets with a 2.7 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 3.7. Carolina going Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake. Stahl, Martinook, Carrier. Columbus going Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov, Monahan, Sillinger, Johnson. It's a pretty interesting matchup here. I'll start on the Columbus side. There's 16,900 coming in at 7% projected ownership. In that range, you have Pittsburgh 1 at 16.7. You have Montreal 1 at 17.3. You have the new Winnipeg line at 16.7. You have that Ottawa line at 17K. I know that Carolina isn't the team defensively that they were over the past few seasons. It's not a very good power play spot. And that's the one thing holding me back. Because even if they see the Jarvis line or the Stahl line, they've been good. It's fine because that Fantilli line has been, fairly good offensively. It's just that, Carolina still has a pretty good power or penalty kill. So I'm probably going to other lines in that price range. The second line doesn't really interest me too much. Sillinger, Johnson, Monahan, they haven't been great together, so I'm probably out on our Blue Jackets here. I guess by default, that gives me more interest in Carolina now. I don't have a ton of interest here. Carolina 1 is 20,700, 8.3% top 2, 1.2% projected ownership. There's lines in that price range with a much higher top 2. Edmonton, Colorado, Tampa, all with a much higher top two here. Now it's a good power play spot, but their power play really hasn't been great. Maybe, with Stahl there winning the faceoffs, it will eventually get better. That's why I don't mind a one-off Jordan Stahl here, or a two-man with like Carrier, who's min-price, or Martinook, who's 2,700. I'd probably throw them in a similar basket to Kendall Koivunen or Kendall McGroarty if you are going to power play stack something expensive. But my favorite line on Carolina is Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake. They've been very good. They're going to get depth matchups of Columbus. They're 14,800, which is the same price as that Flyers Konechny line. They're coming in lower owned. I'd probably go to Carolina too over them. But again, I don't know if I'm going to get to anything in single entry in this game.
Yeah, so I'm going to start on the Columbus side. As you mentioned, Carolina, not quite the same team defensively. Something I brought up, I think a week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, was Carolina creating a lot more offense off the rush this year compared to years prior. I went and looked at it today just to see if anything's changed. Carolina this season is generating 27% more offense off the rush than they did over the prior 4 seasons. That is a huge jump. That is like one of those, that is a genuine change in coaching strategy, not just, some different players being added to the lineup. Now, the thing with rush offense is that, yes, you can create 3-on-2s with a defenseman jumping in, or 4-on-2s or 4-on-3s. It also leaves defenseman exposed to 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s, and it also leaves you exposed to like 3-on-2s where your 2 is a defenseman and a forward. Here are some of the teams that were among the top off the rush last year. Now, Utah was one of them, and they actually were fine defensively, about average by expected goals against, so they were okay. But the other teams were like San Jose, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Seattle. Really, really bad defensive, especially when you look at goals against. I think that's what's happening to Carolina this year. That's why, I understand not wanting to play Columbus. Like, Carolina just kind of has this aura about them, you know what I mean? Just being so good defensively for so long. But this has not been, let alone at 5-on-5. Like, at 5-on-5, they have not been close to the same team defensively. On the penalty kill, they haven't been the same team defensively either. By expected goals against on the PK, 9th, and by goals against, 23rd, on the season as a whole. If you look at just the last 5 weeks, 19th by expected goals against on the PK, by actual goals against, 26th. So I think how they've changed their offense is hurting them defensively, and their penalty kill just hasn't been very good. 16,900, 6.9% ownership. It feels a little high. Like, feels like Carolina should probably come in the low single digits, like we just saw with Anaheim, like 1, 2, 3%. But that Columbus top line, they've been good offensively, 3.7 expected goals per 60 this season. They're perfectly correlated on the power play. Fantilli averaging 3 shots per game over his last 10 games. Like, I think this is if I was 20 maxing tonight, I would absolutely have at least one Columbus top line stack. It's all I like from the Columbus side. I don't think I'm going to get to them in single entry, because I'm probably just going to go to something like, if I want a low single digit line, I'll probably just go to Anaheim in that price range. But I do think there's something to play in Columbus here. And, I say that they're going to get blown out 5-0. Here we go. Should mention, I'll get to Carolina. Should mention Carolina blew up their lines last game in that loss to San Jose. They're going back to what they've had over the last few weeks. I don't wonder if Columbus is up 1-0 in the second period if they blow them up again. That's the one thing that kind of concerns me. 20,700 is pretty expensive for the Carolina top line, especially where they're going against Jet Greaves and not Elvis Merzlikins. Columbus not taking a ton of penalties. Carolina power play really hasn't been that great. I kind of agree with you. I would dip down to the second line, 14,800 on Ehlers, Stankoven, and Blake. 75 shot attempts, 2.8 expected goals per 60 in their last 10 games. Jackson Blake getting some top power play time. I'd rather play them than Philly or something like that. But again, that's not a price range I generally dip down to. Honestly, I don't mind paying up for Carolina 1, but I think it was Carolina 2. But I think in this game it goes Columbus 1, Carolina 2, Carolina 1.
Boston Bruins with a 2.5 total heading into St. Louis. The Blues have a 3 total. David Pastrnak is a game time decision here. Currently, we have Boston for Geeky, Lindholm, Steves, Zaka, Arvidsson, Middlestat, Blues going Thomas, Neighbors, Buchnevich, Holloway, Shen, Joseph. This game sucks. Not exactly sure what else to say about it. It's just, Buchnevich has kind of come to life a little bit in the offensive zone after an awful, awful start to the season. I guess if I was playing a Blues line, it would be Thomas, Neighbors, Buchnevich at 13,700, 2.1% projected ownership. Am I going to get there in single entry? I don't know. But, that's probably the only Blues line. I don't really want to play a line with Matty Joseph on it. The Suter's with or is Suter on that second line actually? No.
Yeah, they're doing that weird thing where Suter's playing the wing with Dvorsky and Bjugstad.
Yeah, so they're not using Suter correctly there. So I don't know. It would be top line or bust for me on the Blues side. On the Boston side, it's like Morgan Geeky is just unstoppable. But his shooting percentage is unsustainable, and it has been since the beginning of last year. Also, if David Pastrnak comes back, that top line becomes fully correlated, but it also becomes very expensive. I would imagine it comes close to 20,000 or even higher.
Yeah, it's 19,400 if it's Lindholm, Geeky, Pastrnak.
I guess it's fine because Lindholm's super cheap, but I don't know, man. It is the Blues. They have been a little bit better defensively. Their goaltending still suck. They don't take a ton of penalties. I would have some interest in a one-off Pastrnak if he is back. Probably could get him fairly low owned since this is not a 7 p.m. East lock. So St. Louis one off Pastrnak, one off Geeky, but I don't really love this game.
Yeah, the problem is Pastrnak having that game time decision tag, right? Is if you build with Lindholm, Geeky, Pastrnak, and all of a sudden he's not playing. If you look at the late lines, Edmonton 1 would be $700 more expensive. Colorado obviously would be $3,000 more expensive, and Dallas is over $1,000 cheaper. So if all of a sudden you can't play Pastrnak, obviously there's no other line on the Bruins in that price range or anything close to it, and you either have to leave $700 and hope Pastrnak plays. And if not, you can move up to Edmonton 1, or you're leaving over $1,000 on the table by dropping down to a Dallas line. I guess you can play Boston 2 then if you want. I don't know exactly why you would do that. I'm not running out to play Boston 2 on a 10-game slate when they're on the road at 11,400. There are other fillers you can go to, Holloway and Shen and Joseph on the other side, for example. Columbus second line. We went through Montreal and Pittsburgh super cheap lines that. The problem is Pastrnak being a game time decision, and the fact that with an 8 p.m. Eastern start, there's only 4 games that lock at that time or later. Nothing in that price range that you can swap to. So I think at best it's put Pastrnak in a utility as a one-off. And if he's not in, make sure you have at least $100 so you can go up to Jason Robertson, or you just drop down to Leon Draisaitl and leave 800 or whatever on the table. Neither sounds all that particularly appealing to me. I'm just kind of out on Boston here. I'm not super stoked about playing the Blues. I guess it would be the top line. At least they've been creating in their minutes together, 62 shot attempts. You get Thomas and Buchnevich on the top power play together. Boston's penalty kill has been pretty good. I don't have confidence that these St. Louis lines are going to stick together. I would rather play them than, Philadelphia coming in at 7x the ownership or whatever. So I guess it's St. Louis 1. But honestly, I think my favorite thing in this game is maybe Pasternak in the utility and then swap if you need to, or like a one-off Dylan Holloway or something like that. I don't see myself stacking anything out of this one.
Dallas Stars with a 3.2 total. Heading into Winnipeg, the Jets have a 2.8. New lines for Winnipeg here. Also, Thomas Harley is back for Dallas here tonight. Winnipeg going Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Velarde, Niederreiter, Lowry. Dallas going Johnston, Rantanen, Duchesne. That's not confirmed, but he did move up there in the last game. Robertson, Hintz, Ben. I don't particularly love the Winnipeg's new setup here. Not a surprise there. Yeah, they are fully correlated, but like Gabriel Velarde is, even if he's not the best DFS player, he's generally the straw that stirs the drink for that line. It's like they're just going to get worse at both ends of the ice this way. We'll see how long it lasts, but probably out here on Winnipeg. If Duchesne is up with Rantanen and Johnston, I would have interest in that line at 18K. 8.3% top two stack, 4.5% projected ownership. I think they're fine for an extra $200. I think you can go to Hintz, Robertson, Ben, 4.8% projected ownership. I think this is a pretty good matchup considering these lines now, especially with with Harley back. That gives them two legit pairs. They can kind of hide a third pair. So I prefer Johnson, Rantanen, Duchesne. I think Hintz, Robertson, Ben is fine, and I'm out on Winnipeg.
Yeah, to your point about Velarde on the top line, I looked at Scheifele and Connor over the last 2 years when they've had any winger except Ehlers, who spent some time there last year, and Velarde, who's spent a lot of time there over the last 2 years. 290 minutes together, 51 shot attempts, 2.4 expected goals, 2.6 actual goals. Those are basically league average numbers. That's seriously, those are basically league average offensive numbers. So when you say that Velarde stirs the drink, it's like, yeah, he kind of does. Like, he is the guy that completes that trio. So while Winnipeg 1 is perfectly correlated, the power play hasn't been very good with Iafallo there, 5.3 goals per 60. That's not good. The Dallas penalty kill has generally been fine this year. So far this season, the Stars on the PK, 9th fewest goals against per 60 minutes. So like, not really a ton of interest here for me on the Winnipeg side. So I'm just out. Like in that price range, I'll go play Anaheim, go play Montreal, go play Columbus, go play Ottawa. Just not this. On the Dallas side, I was looking at the Rantanen and Johnston numbers when they've had anybody but Sam Steele on their line. 3.4 expected goals per 60. Duchesne has missed a good chunk of the season. Kind of easy to forget that last year he was a point per game player, 30 goals and 82 points. The year before that, 65 points, 25 goals. Like, he's generally been very, very good for them offensively in 16 to 17 minutes a game. I haven't been super high on the Rantanen line generally this year, but now that Matt Duchesne might be there at 18K, count me in. There's no matchups on the Winnipeg side at 5-on-5 that I'm worried about. There's no matchups for as far as penalty kill goes that worries me. At 18,000 for Rantanen, Johnston, Duchesne, like Rantanen and Johnston still going to play 19 to 20 minutes a game. I'd rather play than Hintz, Ben, Robertson. I think both lines are perfectly fine, but I do think Duchesne is going to make a world of difference at 5-on-5 for that line. And we know how good the Dallas power play has been. That Winnipeg penalty kill, like, they're not taking a ton of penalties, about league average in that sense over the last 5 weeks. but their expected goals against basically middle of the league and their goals against in the bottom third of the league. This is not a penalty kill to be feared, especially with no Connor Hellebuck. So Rantanen and Johnson Duchesne, easily my favorite line in this game, and honestly one of my favorite lines on the board here tonight.
Buffalo Sabres, 2.7 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.7. Jordan Greenway made it a couple seconds on the top line before they moved Peyton Krebs up. I have no idea what the Buffalo lines are going to be here tonight. I know it's Edmonton goaltending, and I know, that can be advantageous, but, not knowing what these lines are going to be, I guess you could do like Norris Doan. At worst, they're on the power play together. With Zucker out long term now, or however long it's going to be, like these lines are going to be completely different. So I guess I would just focus on like Thompson or Doan or Norris, but really just out on Buffalo. Edmonton, I know that top line, we have them coming in at 5.5%. It's going to be higher than that. It just usually is. McDavid will push 20%. Nugent Hopkins and Hyman will be lower. I feel like they'll come in closer to their top two stack at 11.6%, but that is the line that I like here. I think adding in Draisaitl, if you want to add in Draisaitl just straight up, or you want to leave off Nugent Hopkins, or you want to do, I think a 4-man stack is completely fine here. The Sabres are an absolute atrocity on the road. They're back-to-back on the road. One of their better players just got hurt, so it would be Edmonton 1, Edmonton power play for me.
Yeah. Can't wait to see Thompson tuck Krebs and how they fare tonight. I think Jack Quinn is going to take Jason Zucker's spot on the power play. They were using Quinn a fair bit earlier in the season, especially when Zucker was out. Zucker and Norris were both out. I think it's going to be Quinn. Jack Quinn, I was looking at some of his tracking data. His scoring chance assist rate is through the roof this year. And this is a guy, his first 2 years in the league, he got hurt halfway through his second season or whatever. His points rate of 5-on-5 was genuinely like a top 50 rate in the league. Now, obviously, he had a bad season last year coming off the Achilles and whatever other injuries that he had. This year, like one of the highest assist rates, primary assist rates at 5-on-5 in the league. And Zucker, Quinn, McLeod this season were at 61 shot attempts, 3.9 expected goals. I don't know who is going to replace Zucker. Tyson Kozak, maybe. I don't know. But like a McLeod Quinn 2-man or something like that, I think is okay. McLeod, if their last 5 games, Ryan McLeod leads them in ice time per game. It's not Tage Thompson or Alex Tuck. It's Ryan McLeod. And then I think Quinn is going to see some more ice time, including top power play. It's not like the Edmonton penalty kill is anything to be feared. So I don't mind a two-man of like Quinn McLeod here. That's the only thing I'm interested in on the Buffalo side. Obviously, this is an Edmonton game. I was talking earlier about expected goals against and save percentages and all that. Well, Buffalo is one of those teams giving up a lot of expected goals, but had a high save percentage. I don't think it's going to surprise anybody, but that's really started to come back down to earth. 3 games ago, they gave up 2 power play goals against for the first time this season, and then they did it again last night. So that's 4 power play goals against in their last 3 games. They're starting to come back down to earth on the PK. They've been horrific on the road. I saw one of the Buffalo beat writers tweet about it this year or tweet about it today that under Lindy Ruff, Buffalo is something like 11-36-6 on the road since Ruff took over as coach.
They're on a 30. If they played all 82 games on the road this season, they were at a 38-point pace.
So, like, listen, I would love to give a bunch of reasons why I don't want to play Edmonton here tonight. The only reason to not play Edmonton is because I agree with you. Ownership is going to be extremely high. Buffalo is just coming off a 7-goal pounding. Edmonton's ownership especially the top guys, usually comes in a little bit higher than what we have projected. I could easily see 5 or 6 Edmonton skaters with double-digit ownership here tonight. That would be the only reason not to play them. But like the Edmonton top line over the last 2 years, 345 minutes together, 3.5 expected goals per 60. They're perfectly correlated on the power play. That Edmonton second line, not a big sample, but 3.4 expected goals per 60. Matthew Savoie has 8 points in his last 12 games. Honestly, I would probably just do some sort of Edmonton Josh stack. Just put in like the top line, Draisaitl, add in one of probably Savoie, but one of Savoie or Podkolzin, and one of the defensemen, and then move along. This is a great 5-on-5 matchup. Buffalo doesn't really take a ton of penalties, but again, their penalty kill is starting to fall apart as expected. We know how good Edmonton's power play has been. Edmonton's in a great spot. It's just a matter of whether you want to choke down on all the ownership and what kind of combination you want to go with. Like I said, I would probably just go with an Edmonton Josh stack and be done with it. But that's probably the top spot on the board.
Colorado Avalanche, they 3.5 total heading into Nashville. The Preds have a 2.5. Don't have it loaded. Just give me a second. There we go. Colorado going McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen. Landeskog, Nelson, Colton, Nishushkin, Olofsson, Drury. Nashville going O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista, Forsberg, Marchessault, Halla. I don't really like Nashville here. It's probably the worst matchup they could have at home. That top line's 11,800. So if you happen to be playing 150 and they happen to sneak in there, that's fine. But other than that, I'm pretty much out on Nashville. One off Evangelista, one off Forsberg. Always fine, but, not really interested in Nashville here. Obviously, my interest here is on the Colorado side. Their top line is 22,900, 15.1% projected top two, 1.9% projected ownership. Just the price thing, right? Like people are going to gravitate towards Tampa. People are going to gravitate towards Edmonton. And then you have all those other really good lines under 20K. It's just kind of hard to spend up for Colorado on this slate. 22.9 is not the worst we've seen. I think they're a really good play. It's just a matter if you want to spend that money. There are a bunch of cheap lines you can put them with. So if you do like them and you are comfortable with your lineup, I think you can play them. I'm more likely just to dip down to like Edmonton or even cheaper than that. So like, while I do really like Colorado one, it's a price thing for me.
Yeah. I'm out on Nashville. I was thinking to myself, I think Colorado's defense has been sliding lately. And I went and looked at it. They've gone in the first month of the season. They were first in goals against. Second month of the season, second in goals against. The only team better is Minnesota. And that's because they're getting a shutout like every other game. So not a good matchup for Nashville, pretty much out on the Preds. If anything, it would be the top line. They've actually been able to generate some offense, 58 shot attempts, 3.3 expected goals. They're actually scoring, which not very many Nashville lines have done, 4.5 goals per 60. But Steven Stamkos, 14 shots in his last 10 games. Like the reason they're scoring is because Steven Stamkos is shooting like 35% over his last 10 games. Like obviously can't rely on that. So out on Nashville. Colorado, I think I tweeted about this earlier. Colorado's top line scoring 5.17 goals per 60 at 5-on-5. It's a higher goal scoring rate than when Toronto, Los Angeles, or the Islanders have a power play. Colorado's top line would be the 29th ranked power play in the league at 5-on-5. So yes, it's a great, it's the best line in the NHL. Certainly offensively, they all skate 20 to 22 minutes. Nathan McKinnon has 48 shots in his last 10 games. I think he has a shot bonus in 5 straight or something like that. Nashville does take penalties. Like they're at 3.1 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 8th highest rate in the league. Colorado, 7th most power plays per game. The power play, their shot attempt rate has gone up 17% since they added Gabriel Landeskog. That is pretty significant for a power play that kind of struggled. It was the one weakness of this team for Colorado early in the season. Like, I think Colorado 1 is the best line on the night. The question is whether you want to pay $22,900. But like we said, we went over, that second line from Montreal, that Pittsburgh kid line with Kindle and McGroarty and Koivunen that I think is in play here tonight. There's a cheap 2-man that you can probably do from Buffalo with McLeod and Quinn if you want. Like, there are spots where you can get cheap. It's just a matter if you want to pay up for them. In a 20 max, I would probably have one Colorado. In a single entry, I might just I think I'd be more tempted one-offing McKinnon or something, because I just typically don't pay that much for a lineup on a 20-team slate.
I'm muted. Let's talk about defensemen here. At the top of the board, you have Makar and Werenski in a class of their own at 85 and 84. Then the guys 6K and up are Bouchard, Heiskanen, Sanderson, Dahlin, Morrissey, and Yossi. Obviously, I think Makar and Werenski are 1-2. They're just hard to fit in here. I do really like Bouchard here. Heiskanen's interesting with Harley back. I still think he's going to get top power play time. I just don't know if he's going to be playing 28 minutes a night now. So I'd prefer Bouchard there. I think Sanderson's in a pretty good spot here. It's really about it in the top range. Makar, Werenski, Bouchard, Sanderson, possibly Heiskanen.
Yeah, Werenski, the number 1 projected defenseman. Makar, number 2. Sanderson, number 3, but Sanderson of the 6K plus defenseman here tonight, the highest fantasy point per dollar projection. I do like Sanderson against New Jersey, especially, with Shabbat still out. He's going to get good ice time. We know that. Evan Bouchard, pretty good number 2 here tonight. He has the second highest defensive projection at 19% ownership, but Sanderson's at 20%, so it doesn't really matter. For me, it goes Sanderson, then Bouchard, and then Werenski. Listen, don't really love the matchup against Carolina. I think for me, Werenski would be more like of an MME play. I don't think I'm going to get to him or Makar here tonight. I'm going to live in that 6K-ish range for an expensive defenseman. It's going to be Sanderson or Bouchard. Between 4 and 6K, it's not really a lot there. Like Shane Gostis pair, good matchup at home against Columbus at 5,800. That feels pretty expensive. Especially where the power play hasn't really been doing a whole lot this year. Matthew Schaefer, not really in a great matchup against Vegas. If you go a little bit cheaper, like Darren Radish, I think is perfectly fine. Going up against Montreal, still getting power play time. Even with Hedman back, he played 23 and a half minutes against the Islanders and almost 24 minutes last night against Toronto. He's still getting a lot of ice time. So I don't mind Radish. Jackson LaCombe, certainly. Especially if you're playing a duck stack. Travis Sanheim, not typically high on him, but he's getting top power play time. And I know the Flyers don't have a good power play, but Sharks have a very bad penalty kill, and it's not Askarov starting. So I think Sanheim's in play. If you go under 4K, Matthias Ekholm, Sean Walker, Justin Falk. Oh, God, I hate saying that name. Just because he's getting top power play time. Same thing with Hampus Lindholm, Simon Nemec, I suppose. But again, the New Jersey power play has been a lot worse since Jack Hughes got hurt. Jacob Trouba, not a bad spot to rack up some block bonuses. Hopefully he doesn't get kicked out for elbowing someone in the head. Under 3K, Artem Zub, I think, makes a lot of sense for Ottawa until Shabbat comes back. If he's under 3K, Brady Shea, he's like my cheaper version of Colton Parayko. It's like he's at a price where I keep having to name him because of what he's done. I just, at a certain point, I got to stop. Parker Wotherspoon for Pittsburgh. He's still getting good minutes. Looks like this is a high-paced matchup against Anaheim. He's only 2,700. Don't mind him for cheap either.
Let's talk about goalies, even though I really don't want to. I'll just read you the top range and see if you like anybody. This is 8K. This is 8,500 to 8K. Skinner, Wedgwood, Bussy, Vladar, Hofer, Vegas starter, Shilovs, or however you pronounce it. I guess like Dan Vladar would be the guy for me there. Like I don't want to be in this top range. Like maybe Hofer, but like I don't want to spend over 8K for a goalie here at all. Like, no, thank you. I guess Wedgwood would be the guy from like a win standpoint. That's really about it. Like even in the mid range, I don't particularly love it. Like I don't love Olmark. I guess Casey DeSmith would be the guy for me in the mid range at 7,800. Going down to the cheaper guys, it would probably be Swayman. And, you know, for super cheap, I think Jack Greaves. But, like, if you like somebody, just play him here tonight.
Yeah. Linus Ullmark has the highest point per dollar value of any goalie on the board here tonight. And it's one of those, like, maybe it's like 2 goals against with 20 saves and, you know, he can get you like 10 DK, 10 DK points or something. And it's like, you know what? Screw it. I'll take it. I guess Ullmark at 7,900 is fine. Wedgwood would be my top goalie, just banking on the win. Hopefully he doesn't give up 3 or 4 goals. Don't mind DeSmith. Wish it was Ottinger, but it's a pretty good matchup against Winnipeg. Ilya Sorokin really stands out to me. He's just been so good basically since like the first week of the season. And, you know, as long as, you know, knock on wood, the Islanders penalty kill doesn't completely collapse on itself, Sorokin could have a good game. Don't mind him for cheap. I was going to say Askarov. I don't know if I really want to go with Nedeljkovic. He has not been anywhere near as good as Askarov has this season. I guess like Jack Greaves is kind of interesting to me. Carolina obviously puts up a ton of volume. Greaves has been the better goalie over Merzlikins. That's kind of dangerous. I think the cheap goalie that I like best is Sorokin. I don't mind dropping down to Greaves if you absolutely need to. I'll mention Jeremy Swayman at 7,300. He's been excellent this year. It feels like if Boston wins that game, it's not going to be a 7-5 win. It'll be something like maybe 4-1 or 4-2, and Swayman has a good game.
We won't be here tomorrow. I know it's a 4-game slate, but I will be out. We'll be back on Thursday. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Only briefly mention his name, but again, I think it's a pretty good power play spot. I'm going Pavel Dorofeyev.
I was between 2 here. I'm just going to go with my first instinct, and that is little boy goals, Cole Caulfield.
I'd love to see it. Hopefully you're right.
But we will be back on Thursday. Good luck, everybody, tonight, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Good luck tonight, everyone.